folks, here we got our question number 9. As usual, I've assumed that you've had a go at the question yourself. I'm going to talk through my answers. This is not the mark scheme, and I wanted to just highlight a few points. So in the 0653 core papers, you often get given a circuit to analyse. Okay, and the first one is a standard kind of question. We just need to know what these different things are. Okay, so we're looking here at component C. That's this one here. Now this is a symbol here. You can see essentially a box of a resistor with a little wire going through it. That is a fuse. Now the purpose, which means the job or the function of the fuse, is to protect the rest of the circuit. So what happens here is when the current coming through the fuse is very big, the fuse blows. The wire inside this line snaps, and that stops the current from flowing, and that therefore protects everything else, these other components. Now, before we move on, you might want to check with yourself that you know the other components in this, because these are all very common ones for the 0653 course. Okay, so just have a second to think. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different components here. Take a second to test yourself, and then we'll move on once we've gone through those answers. Okay, hopefully you've had a chance to try. This one here, D, is a variable resistor. We're going to talk about that later in the next question. Up here we've got a switch. This is used to allow the current to begin or stop flowing. Here we've got, well, really this is the symbol for a cell, but because we've got multiple cells here, this is a battery. We have a motor M, sometimes shown without this line underneath. That's a new one for me. And then finally we have a lamp, and you should know each one of these symbols. All right, let's go on. So next thing we're going to talk about is how component D, okay, is able to control the current in this motor. Now remember, D is a variable resistor, so it's always a good idea to simply state that. The component D is a variable resistor. Now this word variable means changing. Okay, so this is a resistor which can change its resistance. Now obviously, if we change the resistance or altering the resistance, we can increase or decrease the current in the motor. And that's what you're looking for here. So if I make this this resistance high, the current will be low. If I make the resistance low, the current will also be high. Okay. Now we've got our question here, which is all about calculations. Okay, and this is one of our standard calculations. We've got the voltage is 6.3, current is 0.45. We're being asked to calculate the resistance. Now for this, we're going to use our calculation, our definition of resistance, which is the ratio of potential difference to current, or voltage to current. We've got 6.3 divided by 0.45, which gives you 14 ohms, and so that's why the answer here is 14. Okay. Now, if we go on to the next part of the question, we continue talking about the aircraft. However, we now start to look at our next topic, which is all about space. We're being asked to complete the sentences about the journey of the aircraft. The spacecraft flies directly from the Earth to Saturn, and on its way it crosses the orbit of 2 planets. Okay, now my answers here are Mars and Jupiter. Why? Well, this is where you're expected just to have an idea of the planets in their order. My very eager mother just serves up noodles. A very good way of remembering it. If we're starting at Earth, we're starting here. This is my spaceship here, and these lines represent the orbits. Now, Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars is the next planet. So we're going to cross Mars, and then we're going to cross Jupiter's orbit on our way to the planet Saturn. Okay, and so that's why we're crossing those two. Notice I've used the small letters here. I probably should use bigger ones. Last one, we're trying to explain why the planet's orbits are. Now this is a really tricky question, actually. I think it's a very hard one. Okay, if you're always trying to explain the idea of orbits, you should use the term gravity. When we're looking at planetary orbits, the planets are trying to go in one direction, but the force of gravity is causing them essentially to fall towards the sun. Now the reason, so we firstly would talk about gravity. Okay, so we've got the force of gravity. Now the reason that the planets go around the sun, or appear to go around the sun, is because the sun is really, really massive. Okay, so we've got a large force due to the sun's high mass, and that is pulling the Earth towards it, okay, as they move around, and as a result of that, they follow that circular path. Now I think this is a really hard question, because there's many ways that you could take this. So really the questions, when they're asking about explaining orbits or anything like that, you're really looking at using the idea of gravity in your answer.